Great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. As you know, the Legislative Assembly is in session today. It's going to be some open line to start things off. We invite you to be a part of our discussion. 1-800-534-TALK or 949-6990. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us as we start today. It is open line 949-8837, 1-800-534-8255. I trust that even though it's a work day, men are in school, students are engaged in all sorts of things, that you still have time, not just because it's today, but because the Legislative Assembly is in session, that we're paying attention. Whether you're watching it through CIG TV, whether you're listening to it on our sister station, Breeze FM, we need to be involved and informed as much as possible with what is happening in our Legislative Assembly. Now, equally, we probably should say, what is happening in our courts as well, whether it's somebody before a court for a traffic offence or some other, serious offence, whether it's a decision relating to the financial sector. The question, and I share that to say that in an early morning discussion with a number of individuals, the person said, his words, wasn't complaining, but merely commenting strongly that it seems that there is a lack of timely information coming out, of our various branches of government. And looked at me, and perhaps this is one of the few times when I say, well, I would probably call myself a cook quicker than I would call myself a journalist. And you know my view on if you're not a trained chef, you shouldn't call yourself a chef, a trained journalist likewise. And he said, where is it that we have a sense of information that is both timely and objective? Not only an opinion piece where someone writes or speaks or talks, but the whole sense that as a people, we know what is going on. Not that we may not necessarily make time to read or to watch or to listen, but at least it was there if we want it. And it's accurate. He shared, for instance, that sometimes you turn on news from around the world, and if you want a view that is strictly down one side and one side only, well, you know where to go, whether that's left or the right or whatever direction. But in this country, were we so accustomed to it being so objective, or B, so fooled into thinking that it was, and it wasn't all along, that now that we see that it isn't, we're finally waking up. Which is it? But he shares that increasingly over time, words like, the news cycle in the political spin, controlling the narrative, and other similar phrases have become so familiar to us that we're wondering, where are we indeed? Where is the legitimacy of what is reported? And we come back to something that we relied on, that unfortunately, he shared, has been allowed to be discredited. And that's the good old Mile Road. He shared way back when. Think of it, he says, those of us who lived here prior to the internet and cell phones, as a child, before you got home, your parents knew what you were up to, and it wasn't a carrier pigeon. Maybe it was whispered in the wind and found its way to the ears of your mother or grandmother, that person who was in charge of the household at that time. How is it that they knew and they were able to take immediate corrective action? And then the legislatures over the years, as the, whether it was the vestryman and the JP, whether it's, fast forward to we have a legislative assembly, as the people sitting in there, not just for title, but for actually policy, and able to do what it is to the public. Now, he shared that because, and I don't think now that we've heard the Honourable Premier share equally, that I think the Premier's words in the Legislative Assembly this morning were that all of the members have been peppered. I think it was the word that he used, being peppered by constantly receiving feedback, calls, input, concerns from various members of the community. And he shared whether there were telephone calls, whether there were other ways that people, reached out to the Legislative Assembly members. Some, he shared, just expressing a bit of shock and dismay that, I thought that the issue of lawmaking, was sort of in the domain of the Legislative Assembly. Is this really how it is? Others, not necessarily, in his view, this gentleman's view this morning, as objective as hopefully, he's trying to be, in that whether you're on one side of the equation or not, doesn't matter. How can you remain objective? And how can we ensure that as a populace, that when we talk about the separation of government, that we look at it so that we as a people know that we elect people unless that changes, those are the people, because they're elected, are going to be the ones who make our laws and amend them. Now, I think he said it was motion 390. Maybe the one that you remember. I thought that when he said that was the one I thought. The uproar not that long ago, when members of the Legislative Assembly at that time thought that only the elected members, should be the ones that involve, and the official members at the time should not have as much input. Up until that point, some thought, well, that was how it's always been. So things can and should change to reflect the particular sort of mindset and circumstance of the day, as long as it's done in a democratic way, and as long as it's done with the knowledge and hopefully the majority consent of the voting populace. Now, as simple and as difficult sometimes things are, the question is, are they more compounded because we are ill-informed? Are they, perhaps more emotive because we no longer look at it as dispassionately, objectively, and as informed as we should? And is that sometimes fueled by, others who have a particular view to skew things, to incite, to otherwise, create, as some would say, mischief? Well, what is your view? 949-8837, 1-800-534-8255. I think if we were students today, whether in, the study of law or sociology or even psychology, it would be a wonderful time to be able to sit as historians and political scientists. Perhaps as we look now, we may be able to see in 50 years from now, those who are commenting, if we keep accurate records, if we're diligent and good stewards in our record keeping, then we might be able to look at it from a historical perspective and analyze it. But as they say, hindsight is 20/20. Where is our vision and forward thinking today? Where are we in one, being inclusive, and two, being mindful and respectful of what should be, a populace that exhibits a sense of fairness and kindness? And where are we as a people when it comes to the whole issue of, what Cayman is, what we would like it to be, who's driving whatever changes that are taking place? Now, I said to the fellow not to interrupt his train of thought. He's always shared, not just good counsel, but made what I believe have been invaluable sort of contributions to our discussions. But I asked him, as we look at these things that are somewhat sort of societal, what are we looking with respect to the physical landscape specifically, with respect to whatever changes that we may allow our politicians, whether they're being driven by external influences? You can read into that, being influenced by the heaven developer and investor with deep pockets to ensure that maybe we amend the building heights, maybe we increase our densities. So when I asked him, if we look at, and he has thankfully been, like many of you, with the good fortune to travel within the region, within other parts of the globe. Some places, hopefully, some must get to go if it is our desire to do so. But he shared, when we look at the Cayman landscape, there is no question that there are many who would in the past say, well, look at what Bermuda is. At that time, we would compare ourselves. Or look at what, Singapore did in a decade. The question is, do we want that? 2, do we have the discipline to do that? 3, would that be the same thing? Now, not a historian, not in any way, shape, form, or fashion, that one who's going to hold himself out to be an expert or even particularly knowledgeable in any subject of any great insights in anything. But if you look at Singapore, where it is geographically, and look at Cayman, could you see similarities? Similarly, could you see it with Israel? Now, focus on Singapore initially. When Cayman is looked at from a perspective of shipping and its maritime heritage, could we have developed, could we still develop a greater possibility to utilize not just our maritime heritage but our geographical positioning? Should we do it with our airplanes as opposed to with our ships? Then we look at our financial services and our hospitality sector. Can we grow that? When we look at the way we're building wealth or failing to do so, should we ensure that more of our people are able to access the opportunities to be able to enjoy, that supposed, sort of windfall and the trappings that come with greater wealth? Or are we going to make it that only some get and then the rest are disenfranchised? A few live in some enclave and these wonderful gated communities with all sorts of security, and then the rest are off to, what are the phrases we use? The ghetto, the shanty towns, the projects, the reservations. Or should we have so that the people who live and work here have a fair degree of, wealth, a good quality of life, high standard of living, irrespective of the jobs they do? Do we complain that the cost of living is that high and nobody can live? I mean, where are we in respect to what we are doing? Now, when we have individuals like the gentleman this morning who was sharing with me, and not just because of what he shared, but I think because of his willingness to say, okay, this is my view, what is your view? And to have a discussion that seems to at least exhibit a healthy respect for difference of opinion, that invites a question, that invites others to, take issue with something. And then when they leave the discussion, they're only too eager to return for another time, even though there was no consensus, no great agreement. And even in that disagreement, it was still cordial and civil. Now, is that not what we used to have when we would hear, talkings of the gathering of the old men, or whether we were under the almond tree, or whether we were sitting by Liar's tree and we were talking about the things that transpired? How many of us can remember? Probably usually around Christmas and New Year's, and the men would come back from sea, and after an evening of heavy libation and perhaps some good food, you'd hear the stories. Now in there, I'm sure there were a lot of exaggerations, but there were probably a lot of expressions of hope and anticipation of things that their parents and their parents' parents probably did. And you see the rich history and the healthy respect. Now, do we take that and move forward? Are we prepared to take up the mantle? Or are we going to throw out the baby with the bathwater and everything else in our great attempt to excavate not just the North Sound and the Georgetown Harbour, but all the mangroves as we bulldoze the physical landscape and plow all the people into, everywhere else? Are we losing all just for the seemingly slight glimmer of what we think may be gold? Well, let's pause and take a break. When we come back, we invite you to be a part of the discussion. We do have some guests scheduled. If they arrive, hey, we're more than happy and hopefully respectfully let them feel welcome and accommodate them and have our discussions. But people's schedules change just like the wind sometimes. We never know the direction is going to blow even despite the weather forecast. So we're not going to go with the flow, but we hopefully can take and paddle our canoe if the sail is not working. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Did you know your home is wasting electricity right now? Appliances or electronic devices can use electricity even when they are not in use or switched off. Also known as energy vampires, things like your cable box and microwave are wasting your valuable money. Don't let these devices keep sucking your power. To save money, simply group these devices together on a power strip and turn off the strip when it's not in use. Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure's Facebook page for more tips on keeping your home energy efficient. Be an energy advocate.
At Flow, we know that 4 are better than 1. Introducing Flow Quad Play. Packed with the fastest, most reliable broadband, the power and control of Flow Evo TV, Cayman's best mobile experience, and tons of home phone minutes, all in one convenient package from only $199 a month. With 4 plans to choose from, you're sure to find one that fits your needs. It's value, ease, and convenience all on one bill with Cayman's #1 network. Find out why 4 are better than 1 with Flow Quad Play at discoverflow.ky. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you know that the Department of Environmental Health operates a recycling program in the Cayman Islands? Recyclables such as number 1 and 2 plastics, tin and aluminum cans, cardboard, as well as glass and ceramic items are recycled on Grand Cayman by the DEH. Take these items to the recycling depots located at all Foster supermarkets, Kirk Market, and Hurley's Grand Harbor. Remember, keep the Cayman Islands clean, reduce, reuse, and recycle. For more information about recycling, please visit DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us, and we invite you to be part of a discussion. It's going to be open line. Well, it's open line until it's not. 949-8037, 949-6990. Trust and pray that you're multitasking, and one of those things that you're listening via at least Breeze FM if you're not able to watch it on CIG TV. The proceedings within the Legislative Assembly. The Honourable Member from East End, I think, is speaking presently. And I think, from what I saw earlier, there are people assembled at the Legislative Assembly. Now, I trust and pray that this is not said improperly or offensive, but let us not let things that are solely and purely emotive inspire us to get involved with the proceedings of a Legislative Assembly, to reach out to our parliamentarians and say, hey, are you looking after this thing or that? Now, I recognize and appreciate that, what they say, when something pinches you is really when you feel it. Rest assured that the questions that we have about whether or not the so-called special interest groups getting together to make sure whether their business interests, whether they're looking after particular legislation because it affects their business or their sector, they'll probably reach out to politicians, not just here but everywhere, to make sure that laws are passed and amended, that certain policies either don't come into play or don't come into play at that time or in that way if it's going to affect them in a way that they believe isn't in their best interest. So why don't we as the populace find a way to mobilize and get actively engaged and not just reach out to our politicians when we need a reference for something or we want, an official form signed or something else. Now, I believe, understanding that we live where, to date, there's still a great deal of safety with respect to moving about our communities. Still needs to be safer. I do not like, honestly, the fact that it was not that long ago when we would say, oh, Cayman is, crime-free. Now we're saying, well, relatively low crime. Why, are we accepting changes like that? They're not simple, they're significant. It used to be that it was clean, no litter. Now, well, I don't know. It almost looks like a dump site everywhere you go. Not just because of a lot of construction and things are being piled up so that people can move it when they get to it. It's not just that people who are doing, their gardening, whether they're paying someone or they're doing it themselves, they're dumping in the adjoining lot somewhere, or they drive and they find an empty lot and they dump it. It's not just that. It's that we're driving our vehicles and we're tossing it out of our cars. We're taking it and we're moving. And it's the whole issue that so many of them, are allowing things just to blow from the backs of their trucks and the like. So, rest assured that we have what I believe is unprecedented access, to our politicians, let's make sure we maintain that. I want to share with you just a little snippet that the Honorable Premier read this morning in the Legislative Assembly. And, as he gets up to the Assembly, he says, Mr. Speaker, and then he goes on and talks and so on. And he shared just a couple of the little bits and pieces. You'll get more of it from our news. If you heard the Legislative Assembly, then you've heard it already. But he said, yesterday, April the 2nd, 2019, the Cabinet of the Cayman Islands instructed the Honorable Attorney General to pursue an appeal against the judgment of the Honorable Chief Justice, that was handed down on the 29th of March in civil case number 111 of 2018 and similar case 118 of 2018, otherwise known as the same-sex partnership case. She says the Honorable Attorney General was also instructed to seek a stay of execution of the judgment pending the outcome of the appeal. So the Honorable Premier says that the Cabinet has told the Attorney General that they should appeal that decision. Now, I share that with you. First, let me read the next little bit that the Honorable Premier, he says, Mr. Speaker, as you have indicated, you, like me, and indeed all of us in this House, referring to the Legislative Assembly, receive many telephone calls, WhatsApp, and text messages in the days following the handing down of this judgment. Said, Mr. Speaker, there were those who sent messages stating that they feel the outcome was right. There are many more that sent messages stating that they feel wronged by the decision and made clear in no uncertain terms their view that marriage should remain the exclusive domain of heterosexual couples. And there were also those who, regardless of how they feel about the concept of same-sex marriage, expressed shock and disbelief that a court could have made such a fundamental policy change in a matter as important as the institution of marriage without reference to this Legislative Assembly. Now, I share that part, and hopefully we will, once they press, so that statement gets out and you get a chance to look at it, read it through. Words are important. I say this, and hopefully you don't accuse me of, being complimentary of the Premier or defensive of him, but he's not only intelligent but very eloquent. Speaks well, whether he's reading from something that was prepared for him or he prepared himself, whether he's been asked to comment on something and he can, just, as I say, think on his feet. I believe many of us would agree that whether locally or internationally, the Honourable Premier can represent us in that light. Now, I share that because a number of individuals, many of whom I've reached out to ask, well, can you give me some assistance in understanding how this thing works? Some of them were either practicing lawyers or used to be lawyers in a former life, as they say. Some of them have law degrees but do not sort of go before the courts as advocates, but I think they have to pay their annual sort of practicing certificate and the like. So and in their work they would be considered subject to the courts and a lawyer of such. They've all shared that, and there have been one or two who had a slightly different view in terms of the powers of the courts and the like. And they've all shared, well, laws are made and amended by the Legislative Assembly. Our Constitution, provides that the courts can look at a law and share, well, in this court's view, this law needs to be changed. They can make a declaration, and then it is then for the Legislative Assembly to decide whether it wants to act. If the Legislative Assembly refuses to do so, and the UK believes that something should be this way or that, they can, through the Order in Council, that infamous or famous or all-powerful as you may want to term it, Order in Council, the UK has always seemingly, from a politician's perspective, waved that as a this overarching threat that they better do something or else the UK is going to force it. We saw it with the whole issue of the abolition of the death penalty. We saw it with other things. Some would say that our Constitution is nothing more than an administrative document, really of little or no consequence. While a few of you have shared that perhaps even now more than ever, the document isn't worth the paper. It was a poorly crafted one, and even worse now. some of you have been very, very unflattering. Some would even say disparaging with respect to the comments on the Constitution, the government's failure to properly defend this particular charge. Others have said it doesn't matter what side of the equation you fall on. The fact is that as a people, and in particular as legislators, we failed to address the issue properly to ensure that it is fair and equitable, the whole idea that there's a sense of justice and inclusiveness. And we keep avoiding things, what some would say, kicking the can down the road. And as a result, we create problems for ourselves. We may escape because we're no longer there, but the problem is compounded because whoever comes out. Your thought. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. And then there was a rather interesting comment from, two individuals specifically, echoing comments from some others, but I found it quite enlightening, as it were, when they shared that for the office of the governor to weigh in on the issue, when potentially there could be an appeal. Now we hear from the Honourable Premier that the Cabinet has instructed the Attorney General to do just that, and then from the Human Rights Commission to equally weigh in. It's almost as if we have settled legislation without the outcome being fully sort of resolved. But again, what is your thought? Now, as important as this is, I would share that, like a number of callers publicly and many privately, we have a lot of other pressing issues. Some of us would say even more pressing. The idea of the potential that we may be changing or development and planning regulations, looking at the density of, say, 7 Mile Beach area, looking at how we're going to be building in the future, whether it's a 50-story or a 150-story building, or will it be one, or will it be, as many as we want, as many as we can get? What about the notion of not just our infrastructure developments, but the concept of how are we going to build roads, where we're going to build them, how are we going to move people back and forth, least of which, and I think is something that should not be ignored. Thankful there are at least 2 individuals that I can count on almost on a weekly basis, sometimes more often, that education is that thing that has to be continually kept in the forefront, not just because of the inspection reports that have been sort of undertaken of all of our schools, but seemingly that it would appear as one of these individuals reminds us, it would appear that our public schools that that's funded directly from our treasury, getting less than stellar reports, and then the private schools are faring a lot better. Why is that? Now, one individual asked very, very directly and pointedly to me, is it that the private school is that much better, or is it that we're deliberately trying to make one look better and one look worse? Well, you may construe that to be a malicious statement, you may construe that to be a sense of conspiracy, or you may actually be involved and realize that there is some truth to it. I don't know, but be interested to hear from you. 8949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Let's pause and take a quick break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Spring is in the air and Easter around the corner. So too is Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village. Stocked with Easter gifts and treats and new spring apparel. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. Get all of your Easter purchases at Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village or call 946-3336. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village.
Awake your taste at Daily Grind Cafe, Cayman's longest running coffee shop. Enjoy our cozy ambiance at Dr. Roy Drive, Georgetown. Or visit us online to view our delectable menu and for limited time offers at dailygrindcayman.com.
Hello, I'm Joseph Woods, the Acting Port Director. Our port facility is the hub of the Cayman Islands commerce and economic activity, handling $658 million in imported goods annually. From groceries to construction materials, all sectors of our economy depend on the port. But it is now 40 years old. Its infrastructure is degrading, and we feel the strain from insufficient space for both cargo and cruise operations. The time is now. A new expanded port facility is needed to allow both cargo and cruise to operate efficiently and to support our island's continued growth and development. Support the port, support our tourism, support Cayman's continued growth and development.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 949-6990. Likewise, if you choose, you can send us your thoughts on our WhatsApp, 925-3261. 925-3261. Now, I must share that, perhaps respectfully, there are many individuals in Cayman who sometimes look to, whether it's the news media for information. Some, understandably, go to the less formal sort of areas of information. What has been the Mall Road in the past, where people, get up at a little talk, now has become a digital platform. So social media, and whether we're posting on one of those sites or the other, and we're sharing our thoughts. But then there are those who still want to make sure that, if it is legit, then they hear it, here, there, everywhere where it is to date expected to be legit, if it's so, reported in those areas. Now, for a few of us, the notion that things change and then change again, even before you have something that is disseminated publicly, it already has been amended several times, and unless you're privy to seeing one or two of the initial versions of it, print and other publications sometimes take a time to get up to speed and get it out to the hands of the public. But with the digital platform, and equally with radio specifically, if you share something and say, hey, read this now, and then 5 minutes later you say, well, don't read that, read this, well, you can't only read what you read. That's why some take time to ensure that this is exactly what is expected to be. Not because they're attempting to censor or any which way, but just to, trust but verify. But what are your thoughts? 949-8037, 949-6990, or WhatsApp, 925-3261. With that, some of you have already shared your thoughts, haven't obviously been very much privy to the discussions, it would appear, of some of the elected members of the Legislative Assembly, perhaps even closer to members of the government side. Others, obviously, because you've heard the Premier's comments in the Legislative Assembly earlier, have said, well, what does this mean for us? And I think what has been unfortunate when we look at the whole issue of the case, that has left many people confused, some of whom who perhaps otherwise thought, well, this must be what it was because this is how they understood it to be, and now reading the media and hearing the comments from many sources, including the Human Rights Commission, the Office of the Governor, and say, well, this must be what it is now because these people are people who should know what they're saying. If the Attorney General is going to be moving forward, where does that put it? Does that mean that, as some have expected, well, we can go and apply to the civil registrar and have a marriage, or do we need to wait? Well, maybe that's a question that we should ask those that are elected. Maybe that's a question that should be clarified by those in authority. But it's an interesting question to ask, and to what extent are you going to consider its implications? Now, as much as it may make for good discussions amongst many, I believe there are other things that we could look at that are equally important. I must share that following the recent comments about the concerns of the traffic, MLA Chris Saunders has noted that he's privy to some motions being brought into the Legislative Assembly during this sitting, some of which deal with the whole issue of how do we address the traffic woes, especially from people coming from the outlying districts. And a number of our students have shared, is it time that we look not just at the talk of limiting the number of cars or limiting cars to certain people, but the idea of how do we, not just for today or 10 years from now, consider the environmental as well as the financial costs of having more and more private vehicles on our roads. The construction of the roads, the building and maintaining of the roads, but equally, how much pollution the cars would cause, to our environment, and the potential, for smog and other pollutants in our airs, and causing the air quality to seriously be compromised. Those students have shared, is there a way that the government could look at committing to a project? It may take 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and one student shared, to develop, but over time, if we start now, as we get the last one on, we maybe have to replace the first one. But whether it's a electric train, that's powered by the solar, as one shared, or whether it's another way to move people, probably have to replace some of the roads. Is that something, one of the students asked, that the public would be willing to embrace? Are you prepared to give up your private vehicle? The chance that you now sit in your car an hour each day, going in one direction, and then another hour in the evening, going in the opposite direction. That whole 2-hour journey or more may be reduced to less than 30 minutes in totality, 15 one way and 15 minutes the other. What is your view with respect to our traffic woes or infrastructure development? 8949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Now, the other sort of comment from one individual at a discussion earlier, and he shared that this, unfortunately, has plagued this society for very long, and it's simply the lack of enforcement by all of us. The authorities that have been entrusted to enforce certain laws has meant that over time, what we believe should be is no longer. He gave us an example, the idea that for those who litter our grounds and throw things out their car windows and the like, illegal dumping, we have hefty fines, relatively speaking, but little or no enforcement, little or no education relative to the general populace understanding that taking this household appliance or this discarded furniture that we no longer want, and instead of having it, if possible, reused by somebody or recycled, or at least properly disposed of at the landfill, we take it and we dump it in adjoining property, or maybe we leave it in our yard to rot down, or we carry it in the dikes or some other area that we think is remote, at least is out of sight of us, so maybe it's out of our minds. We do that, and without thinking of the consequence to the environment. But what if those who do that point fingers and say, well, the government, with respect to the landfill and with respect to these other operations, are at the very least, if not knowingly, must at least be, suspicious that they could be leaching into the, our groundwater, the North Sound and the like. Let's go to our phones though. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hi, Dwayne. Good afternoon. Nice to hear your voice again.
Likewise, it's a pleasure to hear from you. How are you today?
Good, thank you. As you know, I come from civil service, so I did a lot of years in government.
I like how you say that you did a lot of years in government. It's not like you served time.
That's a good one. My first start was with the police, and that was one of the great woes beginning when I started to decide on my decision whether I was going to move out of the service or not. It was the volume of traffic, and I moved out of there 20-something years ago. It has been a rather long journey because we do not fulfill our campaign promises.
Mm-hmm.
End of the subject. If we completed the campaign service promises that we all made, this island would be a paradise for real. And not only for the foreigners that are coming by the million, but actually for the Caymanians and the 138 residents of other nationalities who called here home for a time being. Our traffic problem is we should, and these are my suggestions, by the way. I hold fast to them because were recommended, actually. When we did, remember the big hoopla of the ground transportation law years ago, and how well that was put together, how much money we spent getting it done, typical of Cayman. But what did we do with it? Oh, the next government that came in, they shelved it. The next one that came in, they threw it aside, and the next one, and the next one, and here we are today.
Mm-hmm.
That master ground transportation that Mr. Linford Pearson was one of the main proponents of. Had we followed that, had the following government after he left service, had they followed it, we wouldn't be in this predicament today. You got Minister Hugh talking about rails. No, I don't see why we should. We shouldn't be up in the air. Why we should be on, what is this is in an island? What we should have done was what the ground transportation law plan asked for. Well, now that we haven't, we should start somewhere. We got to start somewhere. So let's start with work permit holders. If your work permit does not, and I mean that with all love and affection for all of them that come here, if your work permit is not renewable for 5 years, then you don't get a car. Simple as that.
You know, as I listen to you, we recognize that when we look at owning a car, for instance, and this is just a general thought, some can take greater issue with it, it should signify a great degree of wealth to own a car, even if we are buying one from off those websites and they're only costing us $10. You know, the initial cost, when it's landed here, it may be a few thousand. But we buy the vehicle, we have to license and maintain it, we have to pay to use it. It's a significant cost.
It is. But, you know, the problem is that 3/4 of the vehicles, and I dare the licensing department, I dare them, I dare the Royal Cayman Islands Police to tell me that what I'm saying today isn't true. 3/4, I guarantee you at least half of the vehicles that we have on our road today are not roadworthy. I was driving behind a white Toyota. You know what she did with her? Instead of having a rear bumper, she painted it white. So when you're driving up on the back of her, driving towards her, and you come up the rear of her, you really don't notice that she doesn't have a rear bumper because she's taken the time to paint it. Because you can't afford a bumper. But another problem is we have too many accesses to cheap vehicles. Littering our roads. I mean, take a look at what happened with us when Ivan hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the volume of people that left our island and just boom. Where was the $2,000 the Department of Environment takes from you for your environmental fee? Where was that money? You see, we do the right thing in the beginning of the vehicle's registration, which is to take your $2,000 when you bring it in, either you or the importer per vehicle. But what we don't do is we don't do a very good job of managing those funds, just like every other funds. We just dump it into Treasury.
Right.
Well, yeah, I don't have a problem with you dumping it into Treasury, but then Treasury has certified accountants. Can you tell me why we don't have a ledger?
Well, remember long ago, right? They had one that probably was certified, and he said that he only considers the checks valid when they're presented, not when they're written, right? I mean, that was a public statement, so.
One of the things I would like government to do is regulate this bus service that they got running around here.
Yeah, do you? I love talking, especially like listening. We have the news. I can't be too dismissive. Would you want to continue your discussion after the news?
Well, how much?
I can call you back, or you can check back. I just news is 90 seconds. All right, we'll continue or not. I do apologize. I can't serve two masters. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
The government fires back after a ruling in Grand Court on Friday to allow same-sex marriage in the Cayman Islands. Legislative Assembly is back in session today after an extended break. It started with a surprise adjournment of Parliament by the Speaker of the House, the Honourable Makiva Bush, to address a motion of, quote, national importance. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Brunei is introducing strict new Islamic laws that make anal sex and adultery offences punishable by stoning to death. The new measures that come into force today also cover a range of other crimes, including punishment for theft by amputation. The move has sparked international condemnation. A Ugandan man who was only 6 years old when his father lost his land in a legal dispute has finally won it back 23 years later after becoming a lawyer. Jordan Kenyera went through 18 years of education and legal training before taking on the case. And Walt Disney Company is being sued over claims it underpays female employees. Andrus Anderson LLP claims corporate policies such as basing new employees' wages on previous salaries have a discriminatory effect on women. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. 949-8037 or 949-6990. Share your thoughts with us. As you just heard in our headline news, and if you want to read the full text of our statement to the Legislative Assembly, you can go to Radio Cayman's Facebook page and read it there. It's, I hear Miss Susan, if I don't mind repeating, whispering my voice. I don't subscribe to social media stuff at all. I wonder to what extent. But anyway, it's there if you want it. Many of you do. And you'll see at some point in time, I may not be green or old, but it will come to pass. And that's going to be probably more to our detriment, but that's a different story. 949-8037. To that last caller, until many like or sometimes when you call, mindful that we have to follow some of the new rigs that come into play now and try to stay within these mandated breaks and the like. Our news team do a great job, and it's important that we stay on time, at least for the news. So I apologize and thank you for holding. Welcome back, Mom. Yeah, hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's me.
Yes, Mom. Sorry again. And thank you too, right? Was that song by, was that called by today? Hello, darling. It's me.
Margaret?
Well, Margaret, yeah, something. I love my country. But you are right, though. But you were sharing, right, with respect to infrastructure and the cost and the notion of public transport and well, you go ahead because I have some questions and some, interest in listening to what you share. What do we do to begin with? I mean,
right now, just clamp down on vehicles. Just say no. Just learn how to say the word NO.
To everybody or just to people on work permit?
Start with work permit holders.
Okay.
If your work permit is not renewable for five, if your work permit is not for 5 years, whatever vehicle you have now, you can ride that. You're not getting no more. Period.
Okay.
End of the subject. Now, my thing is, we need to do the Bermuda model. Go there. Why is it that every household has 5 vehicles? 3/4, and everybody's going Georgetown. I mean, I understand, and another, I understand everybody wants a car, but the island is really only 21 miles long and 45 minutes from West Bay to East End. So we don't need 5 cars every household. So we need to limit. But my thing is, start now and cut out the importation. Start somewhere. A lot of people pay a lot of money for those import fees.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? To operate that business. Then you undermine it with the other part of it, the cheap cars. Yeah, they look good, they sound good, and then you bring them here, and in 6 months you got all kind of problems with them. But no, my first thing would be is to cut off. If you only here for on a 6 month work permit, or if you only here on a 2-year work permit, no, you don't get a car. But in that instance, then we need to make sure that government. The next thing then is to work on the public transportation. If government really, really needs to get that in line, it needs to be 24-hour service minus no days, every day. It cannot operate otherwise. It can't operate otherwise. That if you're going to take away one, you have to supply somewhere else. So if you're going to tell people that you can't have a car because you don't have a 5-year work permit, then you need to put transportation in place so that they can honor their work permit and get to work on time, and when they're finished, be able to return home on time. So that is where the public transportation unit would come in properly, and that should be not. I mean, that is hit hodgepodge right now. I mean, you call there about for a question. That needs revamping. Simple and clean as tomorrow's sunshine, hopefully.
And the idea that when we look at as many, especially visitors to the country, whether they're first time or not, but in particular first time, they see public transport, public bus, and they believe that it is what they know public transport to be, whether they're from
where they come from.
Right. And when they thought, well, wait a minute, this is a private entity. They even go to the public bus depot in central, Georgetown, in the central business district, thinking that this is, again, a public bus depot similar to what they're used to, right? Now, for some listening, they may not quite get that it's just not semantics. This is in the minds of these visitors specifically. And it's probably the same for those who come to the island for the first time on a work permit.
Okay, exactly.
It creates a challenge now. It doesn't mean that the people operating the buses, that some of them aren't doing a great job providing an invaluable service and the like.
Right.
But there are some questions that leave potentially, the issue of liability, whose shoulders will it rest on? Will it fall back on the taxpayer? Is the regulation and enforcement what we think it should be or is? And then the operators themselves have complained publicly that, their competitor George is only going halfway down the lane and then turning around. The customer is saying, I'm waiting at the bus, route here, but it never shows up. I can see it turning around, or worse yet, it's dropping me.
And that is where I say if government needs to take control of it. Listen, we need to also have proper bus stops. And if you stop outside of that bus stop, I mean, in the U.S., and I've traveled quite extensively. I've done everywhere I've gone. If you are not at the bus stop, you are not getting picked up. Simple, period. But you know that the bus is going to be there, though. You know the bus is coming.
But what's interesting, though, and sort of interject, is that when we learned that the bus shelters that are installed was a community service by a service club, right? And that it was a great project to provide something, but it is not something that is done officially. It's the positioning and location and timing and the route was all based on some other thing less than official. And now with the expanding of the roads, think of the ones by the bridge, right?
Exactly.
How potential unsafe could that be for people? Look at some other ones as well.
We got some other ones in some other areas. And plus, also too, the school bus, the bus system. I mean, going Walker's Road, you try to get into Walker's Road or that horror on Smith Road. I mean, come on, man. Smith Road, that should never be, because prep school has a drive and a circle in the back. All of their children should be picked up down there. Yeah. There should not be no hiccup, no traffic on Smith Road. Yeah. Likewise, we need to make children use the buses. Yeah. If you want to pick up the children, well, then you pick them up at another spot, but not in front of the school. Yeah. I mean, come on.
It takes me...
It is really annoying.
It is. Well, it is something that I think, again, I would like for us as a populace, not just the voters, but voters in particular, to start to lead the charge, to encourage the discussion and not leave it for the politicians, because... Of course not.
When they get thrown out, it goes out the window. That's another thing too, Dwayne, that gets me. You start a major project and they act like as if that project belongs to them. No, you were not using your money, sweetheart. You were using all of our money, okay? Yep. Every striking one of us, from the poor straight down to the rich, from the Caymanian straight to the foreigner, you were using our money, not your money. So don't you be coming now when you start a project, it's 3/4 done, and then the next government comes in and discards it? How dare you?
Yeah. Well,
How dare you? I mean, when you go down to West Bay and you look at the school plan that's sitting across a bush field, and then it's just really annoying.
It sounds like we have a chair next to me that you should be sitting in, man. What do you think? Coming out one day.
I'll come and join you one day soon. But in the meantime, I think that's one of the areas we need to start looking at. Is if we're going to cut one, we have to make it work on the other. I say, if your work permit isn't good for 5 years, you don't get a car. And next, government needs to take over the public transportation. However they want to work it, they can still work it in the public-private partnership as they have it now. They just need to have more control. It needs to be 24/7, and your route is your route. And I'm sick and tired of seeing them back-to-back racing down on Bosun Bay Road and where they're going.
I hear you. Thank you very much, Mom. You are awesome.
Good day, my dear.
Blessings to you.
And thank you.
Thank you too. All right, we have another caller, Ms. Susan. And thank you for not listening only, but joining us equally. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Sterling.
My friend, how's it going today, man?
Yeah, early relief today. Early relief. The previous caller, everything she said, in talk, right? Last week I called you, I was telling you, the public bus transport should be 24 hours, right? And 1/3 of that is 8 hours. So
yeah.
You tell me like 3 that's 24 hours.
Right.
And like I said again, that's just these extra tax. You remunerate it. So that would discourage them. They have to use the public transport. Simple.
Yeah, man.
It's done work about this afternoon now. Differently. I appreciate the Speaker of the House, Mr. Bush. Mr. Premier, Mr. Alden, right? The Director flying and clarifying primitively, right? This whole proliferation of marriage, right? In an ordinance matter, right? By stepping it, laying down in a condition, right? Instead of, like I said again, yesterday when an extra was of Vex and Cross, angry, right? How the Chief Justice, right? Actually, this purse, right, is syndicated a purview of a unicorn decision and ruling, right? Indiscriminately ruling. You feel me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and how I analyze it this morning now, be sitting under the woods now, you know. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate yesterday they were the cabinet caucus and they arranged that like an urgent meeting, and that's what I do, right? So it's in a promise, contain a promise. How we go with that? And Sterling, like I say again, me personally, I change the subject now. I will call a talk show to Dyke and them come, right? I persisted in determining of the legalization of marijuana, ganja. I called in to Dyke and them come, you know. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate the people in Cayman Islands when they call talk shows, they call in.
Right.
They have people on the puppet, you know, that doing authors, and when you're in public now, you don't know who they are. But people know who they are, so nothing wrong with that now, but still, call and talk show, be vocal.
But someone like you, right? Sorry to cut you. I commend you, and I was just wondering, you are so willing, you know, and thankfully there are increasingly more people like you. But why is it, I keep asking this question, why is it only 3 or 4 or 5 people, we can count them, you know, who are courageous enough, who seem to be willing to say, listen, you know, I support this, I don't support this, here's my view on this, here's a question I have on this. But the rest of us sit quietly, some with their thumbs in their eyes and ears and not listening or paying attention.
Yeah, Sterling, like I say again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? A lot of them naive with things, you know, right? Naive is a powerful word, you know.
Mm.
Who are like, use that in an ingenious way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, then I vocal, right? And I can read and write too. I went to the best school in Cayman Islands, and 9 years with nations, right? My fundamental education, right? My speech or my notation is fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not wrong with that, too.
Not wrong with that, man.
And the good thing about it, I talk fast. Now, who know me?
Yeah.
But the foreigners understand me.
Well, I'll tell you what I tell them, right?
After a while, from rising, man, they're, I know Rambo now, I know Fabian now. But it's good and bad now. It's good and bad.
Right,
yeah,
right.
But still, like, you see people now, okay, man, now, they have tendency, they're afraid of repercussions, of victimization. That's why you don't get nowhere. You don't get nowhere. We get on the email, this and that, hello, this is called talk show. Or if you're an author, say who your name is.
Yeah, man.
So you have an idea, because when you go to public now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You actually prejudge someone.
Yeah.
Like I started here now, right? On the part now, 95% people that know me, they respect what I call the talk show. They respect me.
Yeah, man.
Different class of citizens, each demographic, right?
Right.
Who played last night, or who knows where I born, and who know my generations, right? But people know, like I said again, it's called talk show.
Yeah.
Right? They put the name without it.
But if I can ask you though, and I know just from a small number, I don't want to make it sound like it's in a great number, right? People who have said, what's the point in calling, because end of the day it doesn't make any difference, You just be phrase of one man. You just beat up your gums. The politician is not listening. The private sector that controls things don't care. The $2 that you spend in their shops don't really matter. You, especially you, the voter, inconsequential.
Yeah, so, right. I know say you're exaggerating, right? But personally, in my affairs, right? People do listen. Personally, people do listen to me. And like I say again, different class people, right? From the hierarchy to the low class. People do listen. But you see people, like I said earlier on, naive. Something naive with that.
Right.
Do it make sense to me now to go bar room and make noise? No.
Not at all.
I call talk. No, I don't make noise in the sense. I call talk so.
Yeah.
Or whenever I see my politician, the person I talk to, I tell him what to do.
Well, let me ask you, right?
It literally plays out.
Yeah, let me ask you. You say people don't listen to you, right?
Not me. I'm talking about all people.
No, that's what I'm saying. People don't listen to you, right? Yeah. Do you think that's because they look at us, those of us who are saying anything, they don't listen to them because they're willing to dismiss, that person isn't so-and-so, that person isn't, of this caliber, isn't of this thing, whatever that perception they have. Is that what you think it is?
Some classes, like, you're in a circle, you're in a elite circle, like caliber, It's just something like I said again, this whole situation with LA this morning, right?
Right.
All that is showing a proper alignment now, right? Of diversifying, that separation. Yeah, hello. That's all they're doing now.
Yeah, but
that Chief Justice did.
Yeah, if you look at the Honorable Premier's statement, right, and he shared that there are some people who called and sort of contacted the politicians, say they support it. Some who felt that it was wrong and they were opposed to it, and then he said there were also those who, regardless how they feel about the concept of same-sex marriage, expressed shock and disbelief that the court could have made such a fundamental public policy change in a matter as important as the institution of marriage without reference to the Legislative Assembly. And that's the part that I found from a number of people who were, and I like the way the Premier phrased it, that they were thinking about this thing is only for the courts to do. And, I'm just wondering how much of what's going on. So, anyway, your thoughts, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I always enjoy it. What are you sharing with me?
Yeah, so we actually analyzed today, right? This morning, right? The whole scenario of it, right? The Legislative Assembly, they play a role.
Right.
Based on the trend, that whole aspect of it. It was actually misinterpretation on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was uncalled for.
Yeah.
That had me so disparaging and cross and angry. Right? On the phone early on, overseas calls, people say calm down. But I'm angry, frustration, right? Our people.
Yeah.
But still, that's all about, right?
But I think
because you don't have government work, right?
So, yeah.
You don't have government right? The Legislative Assembly, Judiciary, the Treasurer, Administration, the whole few arms, those works now.
Yeah, you got the Judiciary and the Legislative Assembly, and then your executive, the cabinet, right?
That's yes.
Yeah.
Everything.
Right. So the three of them, and looking at those separation and understanding what their roles should be, the question is then, where are we as the public, the voters in particular, because we're the ones who elect others, where are we as a public, But anything else you want to share with us?
No, that's what I said today, man. Like I said, Sterling,
yeah, man.
I relief, I proud of Premier, personally.
Yeah.
And Mr. Bush, personally, I proud of him. It's a start.
Mm-hmm.
We're exercising the democracy. You just that trend, because what we started over going across, right? It was all over overseas media, presses, right? How they syndicate that, publish that.
Right.
Media, that that came coming to.
Yeah, man. So true, man. We'll talk again, right? All right. Blessings to him. I always appreciate his call. Got a couple of the callers. We also got a good fine gentleman joining us. We'll tell you who that is in a second. If you look on YouTube, you'll probably see him, but let's just wait. Let's go to our phones, though. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, ma'am.
How are you?
Excellent, blessed, thankful. How are you?
I'm good. Darling, I was listening to you with the gentleman just now. Some part of this conversation. Darling, you have a lot of people out here who want to call a talk show, but they are afraid to. I tell them it's nothing to be afraid of. Just speak your mind. Just watch your words and speak your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people who tell you you're wasting your time going to the radio and talk. I tell them, let me tell you something. Somebody will listen eventually.
Yep.
Somebody is hearing what's being said, and something will go in effect at some point in time. It may not happen today, tomorrow, but believe me, it will happen sometime before this island is turned completely away from radio and work that need to be done and so forth. But Sterling, when you think about people that want to have a voice, and they're afraid to have a voice for what reason, I don't know. some can go on Facebook and they can plaster you, and they can feed the most negativeness on Facebook, and they get the biggest audience. But when you do something positive, your audience is very, very small, very limited of people. And it is true.
It's unfortunate.
Huh?
That's unfortunate. Remember what the Calypso song, when the wind blew up a woman's dress? You read about it in the foreign press.
Yes.
Same mentality.
Yes. But Sally, I just want to tell my Caymanian people, you need to get up and speak up and speak your mind, because we have to live here. We don't have the way to go to an extent. We can go for a while, but we coming back dead or alive. You know what I mean? and take pride in your island and love your island, and people walk around brag, but I'm a Caymanian. So if you're a Caymanian, why ain't you living like a Caymanian, and why ain't you doing the things that are going to help keep Cayman? You know, I listened to Lucy Seymour this morning, you know, off and on, and Mr. Steve Matthew called in and mentioned my grandfather, Felix Thompson. You know, that was a touch. And I had to call in and thank him for it, because you very seldom hear about your passed on people, your grandfather, your grandmother, or your mother, or your father, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I know you're not supposed to live in the past, but we got children, grandchildren coming up that needs to know some history of this island, which we have very little of. That's leaving us daily, and we need to try to stay into the history form of Cayman, because what we can tell our grandchildren? I was born to Felix Thompson, daughter, L.O., and that's it, bam, nothing more. Come on. He helped build the post office around the island. He did some work around the island, and I understood he went to war and so forth, you know what I mean? But we need to really come from behind the veil and speak up for our country. We get an opportunity to do it by radio and TV, if you like, depending on what you want to say on TV. But you got so much radio opportunities on the island, and I think we need to come out and express ourselves and let the island know how we feel about things, and what we would like to see, and what we don't want to see, and what we want to hear, and what we don't want to hear. Because then it is healthy. You're sitting down home all day fiddling with your fingernails and wondering this and wondering that and not asking questions. So let me tell you something. I'll leave my visitors before I drop them off. Ask questions. As long as you're on this island, ask questions. Don't sit in no doubt or I think or I wonder. Ask questions as you move around in this little island that we call the Cayman Island.
Well, I certainly appreciate what you're sharing. Anything else you want to?
I'll leave it at that.
All
I
right.
just want to say that it's a beautiful day in the Cayman Island.
So true. It is, man. And we can make it better. All right. With that, we'll take one more call. But enjoy your afternoon. Certainly it's a wonderful sunshine any day. Let's go to the phones. Welcome you on Talk Today.
Hey, Dwayne. Good afternoon to you, man.
Hey, good afternoon to you. What's happening?
Boy, I didn't know where to start on yet today.
Well, they say sometimes, the best taste is in the middle. So we'll see what we can do with that.
We can see what we can do and leave that one alone.
Yeah.
But what I'll say is, let me just say that I concur with everything that I called in regards to the public transportation and voicing her sentiments on that. I concur with everything that Val said, and they were great. I did want to talk to you a little bit. Your last call, not so much your call before last, your engagement with him in regards to people calling, and specifically in regards to the issue that he called on. I can't say that necessarily, Dwayne, I am most happy that the Premier issued a statement in regards to seeking an appeal personally. And here's why, for the most part. Well, if he did it on the grounds of seeking clarity in regards to the Chief Justice scope of being able to and people keep using this loosely, so I'm going to be careful with my words because I know words are important, but people keep saying he changed the Constitution. I certainly didn't see it as such, and I think the Chief Justice actually alluded to that fact, his ability to not be able to do that. But what I read from what he said was, and that was as what was recorded in the public domain on CNS, he said that he thought that the discrimination that the two petitioners were living under, and that they have been living under it for so long, given that they'd also sought to get equality, if you will, on the Cayman laws, that he thought they were so bad and so awful that he didn't care to have them go on in the long run. As such, I gathered also that he said that there were scope, or certainly precedent is, I think, the word that was used, for the judicial in the British legal system, not so much as the American system, but in the British legal system, to remedy a situation as such that it allows for the person to not continue to endure that. So what I get is that he didn't just want to rule that they were being discriminated against, but that what the notion that what they were seeking to do, which was obviously to have some sort of a union, he was going to order for that to be done. Now, I'm not a legal mind as such, but I get that in our system, or certainly my understanding of our system, Dwayne, is that the court is who we have in a democracy, allowed by default to be the sole interpreter of the law. It's the reasons why they send people to jail. It's the reasons why they put people on parole. It's the reasons why, and they interpret the law. This was a judicial review. I've had an opportunity in my lifetime, as you would know, in filing the judicial review against the government to stop them from destroying us with the mosquitoes. And at one point we had it in our favor, and another point it went the other way upon further review. That's what I understand judicial reviews will do. Now, I don't understand on what grounds he's seeking this clarity from, because if I understand precedents, again, there is legal precedents within the Commonwealth and certainly within the UK and certainly within the appellate courts and Privy Council, as I understand it, that upholds the notion of equality under the law. So my question would be, what exactly are we appealing? On what grounds do we think we're going to be successful?
I'll actually share one other thing with you. Again, like you, the legal minds have probably weighed in, right? But actually two, just this morning alone, have shared that, the ruling of the Grand Court is really, beyond its scope. Again, these are from lawyers practicing within the judiciary. And they've shared that it is now for the Legislative Assembly, the lawmakers, to make a decision. And this doesn't change the law, yet as a public we seem to think it is. The media is reporting that it has, and everybody's confused.
Beyond the scope, clarify what you mean beyond the scope. Are you saying that that the legal minds were talking about the fact that the Chief Justice was beyond his scope for being able to, as you will, for all intents and purposes, legislate from the bench?
Yeah.
Or beyond the scope in terms of making the decision that it made? Those two are two different things in my mind.
Yeah. Well, that the Grand Court ruling goes beyond the powers of the Grand Court. That it isn't, our laws do not allow for judges to, make law from the bench, as it were. That's for the sole remit of the Legislative Assembly. Now, I've tried to get a few other lawyers to come publicly and help us to understand this, with a view that we understand the process, because I don't know about you, but I know me and some others are unsure, what exactly is what.
And so I agree with that. I completely agree with that, because that was a bit jarring for me. I'd never really had that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is important, though, that we make that distinction, because our people, the Cayman people I'm speaking to in particular, they have to understand that the remit of the court to make the decision in terms of stopping the discrimination against those two petitioners is very much within their scope.
The courts, from what we understand, in this jurisdiction, not like in the U.S. where the high courts can say, the Supreme Court say, listen, this is unconstitutional, so therefore now we're changing it. This is the law. In our understanding, in our courts, remember the Grand Court is just the Grand Court. We have the Court of Appeal that is higher than that, and the Privy Council is higher than the Court of Appeal. And what we understand is that the courts here can make a declaration that says this thing is incompatible with the Constitution, and it is for now the Legislative Assembly to address the issue if the Legislative Assembly wants to or feels it should. Should the Legislative Assembly refuse to, for whatever reason, then the UK, through an ordering council, can make the necessary adjustment. But the courts, again, as we understand it from the lawyers practicing here, the courts can't, in that instance, make a ruling that changes law.
I understand that you're not a social media man, so you wouldn't have been exposed to some of my thoughts that I shared in regards to the same thing, and I said the exact same thing. In fact, that was the only part that I didn't quite could fully appreciate. That is the Chief Justice ruling from the bench and allowing it to go outright, because my understanding would have been just as you said, which is that he would have ruled the incompatibility of the law, the marriage law, against the basic human rights, which is what I thought the argument, which is what I thought the lawyers argued. And then after, if he did that, then he's basically saying to the LA, you have to amend this law to make it compatible to these persons' human rights. And if they refuse to do it, given that the courts now made a ruling, which is our highest court, the Grand Court in this jurisdiction, that is, then and then they left the government basically liable to being sued. And so that's if they drag their feet. Now, of course, these ladies could have then appealed to the appellate court, which is the route I think the government is going. In short, though, Dwayne, I guess overall, notwithstanding the confusion surrounding that, because it really is has to be clarified.
Right. Well, I'll share one last thing. As again, it was my personal attempt to try to understand it. For nothing else, for me to know, but if anybody asks, perhaps I can share. One attorney shared that, when you look at how you interpret laws and the like, one says, one of the rules of interpretation that's accepted is that when you have two provisions of a law, right, and they're in conflict, but one of the provisions is general and the one is more specific. So you got two laws, one has a general provision, one has a very specific provision. It is accepted that the more specific provision will prevail over the more general provision, which seems to make sense. This thing is specifically says A, B, and C. This one is generalization, right? It's interesting. I think we're going to have a lot of opportunity to discuss. Hopefully not the motive side that gets into the personalities, but we get into the substantive principle and the policy and the idea of who make laws and how laws are interpreted and what are the consequences. And maybe we'll find people with the moral convictions to do the right thing.
I agree. Well, I'll just leave this with you, though, and I agree with all that you just said, and that was very interesting, and thanks for sharing it. What I will leave is the question, though, in my mind, in terms of equality. I've obviously shared different lens in many respects on many subjects. Yeah. And I've been wrestling with this. I am a product of the Cayman Islands. I'm from West Bay, and I grew up going to the traditional churches that we all have. The reality of this though has dawned on me that, could this be an opportunity for us? I understand the very real issue about this for the Caymanian people, and many of the expat community don't understand that, and perhaps you need people to be able to speak to that reality. There are many Caymanians in this country, notwithstanding, in addition to or not excluding our church community, that really see the blessings of Cayman, if you will, hinged on the fact that we carry ourselves, project ourselves, voice the fact that we see ourselves as a Christian community, and actually believe that the blessings of God, if you will, in a broader perspective. I understand that reality. Not many people are speaking to that. That's the crux of why the Caymanian people, for the most part, struggle with. And so God forbid if we have a hurricane this year and this law continues, because then people will get blamed for the fact that this hurricane came. That's the sort of thinking that our people have. Let's just face the reality. I happen to see it differently.
Right.
And the truth is we have to ask the question, is this an opportunity for this country to be a beacon? Because it has an opportunity to be a beacon.
Yeah. But one thing, though, I think, and maybe we'll leave with this, is that there's a part of Scripture talks about, when your leaders turn away from God, right? When we start to believe in ourselves and forget, if we're a Christian nation, from where our blessings come, then can we expect, if we step away from God, to be under his mercy, care, protection, and provision. He's focused on the emotive and not necessarily the substantive. Hey, thank you, sir. Thank you. Always a pleasure, and I do apologize for calling it that now. But let's pause and take a short break. When we come back, looks like a discussion in relation to the police helicopter is about to unfold. Maybe me and Susan can get a chance to go up in it. I don't know. Maybe we'll do Talk Today from the helicopter. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
All members of the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association, you are wanted. We need you to come to the annual business meetings to hear what's happening within your association so that with your help, we can have a more productive year.
Mark your calendars for these important dates. Grand Cayman, Wednesday, April 10th, 5:30 p.m. at the Georgetown Town Hall. And in Cayman Brac, Thursday, April 11th, 12:15 p.m. at the District Administration Building, upstairs, conference room.
Refreshments will be served at both meetings.
Come early, mix and mingle, and catch up with your fellow association members.
There will also be surprises at the meetings, but you have to be present to take part in the fun.
Remember our very important business meetings. Grand Cayman, Wednesday, April 10th, 5:30 p.m. at the Georgetown Town Hall. And in Cayman Brac, Thursday, April 11th, 12:15 p.m. at the District Administration Building, upstairs, conference room. We look forward to seeing you at the meetings.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore,
Spring is in the air and Easter around the corner. So too is Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village. Stocked with Easter gifts and treats and new spring apparel. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. Get all of your Easter purchases at Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village or call 946-3336. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village.
Why my wife always asking if I'm in a rush when she's the one always making us late?
Might as well say, yeah, I'm in a rush and go buy the new Toyota Rush you've been talking about. Cause they on sale this month. Dull, teacher.
The super special spring SUV sale at Vamp Motors. Save up to $4,400 with SUVs starting at only $23,500 like the 7-seater Toyota Rush. Save money, get cash back, or use the discount to upgrade features on the SUV of your choice, including the Toyota RAV4, the Fortuner, the Rush, or the Ford EcoSport. It's our super special spring SUV sale. Only at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road.
This Easter weekend, the Cayman Islands will welcome the rest of the Caribbean, and you do not want to miss it. Carifta 2019 takes place at the Truman Bodden Sports Complex from April 20th to 22nd. Watch the region's most talented track and field athletes compete and come cheer on your Cayman athletes. Get ready to raise your flags at the Caribbean's biggest athletic event this Easter weekend. It's Carifta 2019. Tickets start as low as $10. On sale now at caymancarifta2019.ky. See you at the games.
Carifta 2019.
It's all about unity.
Get your tickets now at caymancarifta2019.ky. Brought to you by the Cayman Islands Government, CUC, Salt Technology Group, the Cayman Islands Athletic Association, DART, Miracle Broker, Maples Group, Pinnacle Media, World Gym, and Radio Cayman.
At Powerhouse Gym, where you feel like home in a multicultural energy environment for all. They are dedicated to helping you achieve your fitness goals. Whether you have decided to get in shape, train for a specific sport, boost your energy levels, or even look your best for a special day. With a variety of sports options, group fitness classes, CrossFit outdoor gym. They provide personal trainers and equipment. Powerhouse Gym, King Sports Center, offers a complete health and recreational environment for the only sports and recreational facility of its kind in the Cayman Islands. For more information, call 946-5464. Email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. Powerhouse Gym, King Sports Center. Serious results, period.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after.
Brit K protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after.
Visit britk.ky or call 949-8699.
Brit K, where people come first.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us here in this edition of Talk Today. Always a pleasure to sit here, and especially when we get a chance to welcome our guests, in particular, good friends from the RCIPS, and with great respect to our Commissioner and Acting Superintendent. I always believe, if my mother raised me correctly, my father said to me, you have a mother and 7 sisters. You always be respectful of the women who are in your presence. So, the excellent company, of Miss Jacqueline Carpenter. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Thank you. I get introduced first. Thank
yes,
you,
ma'am.
Dwayne.
Yes, ma'am.
I
And the gentleman
that.
here would always agree. It's a distinct pleasure to welcome the first time to talk today, our Commissioner of Police, Mr. Derek Ryan. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invite, sir. Glad to be here.
I hope that we'll have made a wonderful impression and made you feel somewhat welcome, that you'll return again. Bring chocolate when you do, though.
Absolutely. more than willing.
And Acting Superintendent of Special Operations, Mr. Dwayne Ebanks. Again, welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me again.
I've always believed that in our society, many of our young students grew up. I'm no exception. Seeing the men and women in uniform and wanting to be a police officer. I recall the beat officers coming into the primary school talking about community initiatives, even before there was this formalized sort of public PR. And they'll be there, and you look at them and you marvel and you go, wow, one day I would like to be that. Some of us grow up to live our dreams, Mr. Ebanks.
Yes, certainly.
All right. Well, Ms. Jacqueline, when we look at the policing and we see not only how the service is expanded, but we appreciate the resources and the support generally of our community, and the notion that it's one country, but there are 3 islands that, not as connected as we would like to be. I mean, there's a little body of water separating us sometimes that...
There are some realities to geography, right?
Apparently so, yeah.
And so we do our best to foster that connectivity when we can, and we'll be doing that this week with the trip to Cayman Brac.
And I like the fact that the utilization of technology, whether we'll deploy drones in the near future, whether we'll look at fixed-wing aircraft, but having a helicopter that's seemingly very mobile and agile, and the ability to move from, say, Grand Cayman to the Brac, not just for policing operations, but to respond to a medical emergency. Right. That, to me, is commendable for a society like this, that someone in very short order can get the help and attention that we need. I think of the vessel, Mr. Ebanks, that is offshore, struggling, the people on board a bit frantic, just to see the helicopter. Hey, we see you, hold on, help is on its way. It's not election year, but help is on its way. We get there.
And we have that capability of delivering essential goods to persons who are in distress on the water as well from the helicopter. So,
all right. Well, Ms. Jacqueline, from that perspective, we invite the Commissioner to share with us the new helicopter. Beautiful beaming. It's not Sir Branson's, but it's not bad.
It's definitely made quite a debut. Sir, did you want to talk about our newest addition to the service?
Yes, and I'm beaming when I say that we received a new H-145 helicopter in the last 2 weeks. You're aware we had an accident with our old DC-135 on 26 February, and to be able to turn around the new helicopter within just over 3 weeks was exceptional, and that's of course down to an awful lot of people, the goodwill of a lot of people, including our government, to support the finance, a lot of finance in it. However, what we have received is a really state-of-the-art, advanced avionics H-145 helicopter, which gives us advanced capability for patrol, national security, border protection, medivac, longer reach, less noise, greater fuel consumption. It's an outstanding piece of equipment. And I think because we accelerated it on the production line, We have some work to do with it to retrofit towards the end of the year. We'll get through the hurricane season, that's the plan, and then as the season becomes low, we'll move the helicopter back to have it fitted with the advanced equipment, which will help us in search and rescue. But for the moment, the equipment we have is outstanding, allows us to perform our patrols in our territorial waters, and more importantly, do the medevac between islands, which is critically important. We've been called upon through our partnership with HSA to perform a lot of medevacs from the sister islands, predominantly Cayman Islands. Cayman Brac.
Yeah.
And that has been working very, very well. So we're delighted to say we're able to continue with that process with very little interruption. Just that period between the 26th of February and 21st of March. We're up and running now, and we're all very pleased with the product. It's outstanding, and the last couple of weeks the pilots are telling us it is a marvellous machine. We got one of the best on the market.
Yes, much more manoeuvrable, I understand. The range is much more significant.
Huge. We have a lot more distance. We have capacity to carry auxiliary tanks for fuel for longer distance. We can travel much longer distance, stay airborne much longer. And as I said, with advanced avionics, we're able to do a lot more than we could have done. So it's a win-win for everyone across the islands, and great credit to all involved in accelerating this project, from our Air Operations Unit, who are exceptional, right through to all the departments in government who pushed it through for us within 3 weeks. And I'm not aware of any service that would get that done within 3 weeks. I mean, it was outstanding. All came together, and some people refer to it as luck. We're saying luck is where preparation and opportunity collide. We had the preparations in place. We were ready to receive the helicopter. We're making optimum use of it, and it's all to play for.
Well, it is a beautiful sight to see in the sky. Less noises, so it's not as intrusive.
Yes.
Yeah. Still have the forward-looking infrared sound capabilities, so all those advanced avionics.
Yeah, we're working at that, and it will be advanced. It will be further advanced later in the year as it goes back for retrofit, and at that stage we would genuinely hope. The superintendent is working on a project now at the moment to see what we can do about the second helicopter. So he's working furiously on that, and we would hope to be able to present some project papers to Cabinet and the Governor and the Premier in the next 2 or 3 months. So that's an exciting opportunity.
You know, it is amazing to see how we not only deploy the technical resources, but the human side of it. So as our people come on board, the opportunities for greater job satisfaction, but a greater remit. The policing now become much more prepared and prepped. Mr. Ebanks.
It really is challenging, but rewarding.
Yes.
Just the helicopter alone over the last several weeks has really, as the Commissioner said, has really proved what we can achieve in a short period of time. And yes, we'll be looking at a new helicopter, what's fit for purpose. So we can certainly give the community in the islands the service that they require. The new helicopter that we have has many benefits. We talk about the medevacs, but it also has the capability of carrying more officers. If there's something that happened in the BRAC and we needed to get a team over there, where there was limited capacity on the 135, the 145 has the capacity to carry 6 officers as opposed to 2. So just those few things that we look at, we can see the benefits that this new aircraft gives us.
So greater airlift, greater ability to take care of your payloads as well.
Yeah,
that moves us across in a much faster speed, I gather, as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, as I said, it's advanced, and for criminal interdiction and medevacs, I mean, it's multiple use, search and rescue. Will have greater capability when the winch goes on later in the year, and then this is an exciting project for the superintendent to look at the next helicopter, next stage in the process. So that's exciting as well. So on top of that, then we also have our Joint Marine Unit and our move towards the Coast Guard. So there's an awful lot happening in terms of protecting borders. The new Cayman Customs Border Force is in place, working very closely with them. A lot of exciting stuff happening on the islands that's really going to enhance our national security infrastructure and provide greater protection across the islands.
Superintendent, from that perspective, when we look at the marine operations, the national security and border protection, as we meld those from the interdiction of drugs, guns, human trafficking to our borders, to also search and rescue, using the helicopter going forward, how do we see that playing into the public sort of participation, especially on the waters, extended use of private aircraft, private boats?
I think the helicopter has proved the weight and goal, actually, when it comes to search and rescue and border control. As we move forward with the Coast Guard and the use of the helicopter, I think the mesh of the various units will bring border control to a level that we've never seen before. Currently, we are doing well with what we have, but the objective of the goal is to really bring this to a stage where we are the focus of the entire Caribbean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We understand, and respectfully could be clarified, that with the helicopter, the opportunities for the human side, the aircraft itself can be up and operational and utilized almost constantly and continually. Yeah. But the human side, the pilots, regulations require that they can only be on airborne for so long. Yeah. Commissioner, how do we get more of us on there so that we have it in the air as much as possible?
Yeah, okay, so that's a very good question. And to answer that, we have two very experienced pilots here now, and I should go back to the 26th of February when we had that accident, unfortunately, at ORIA on takeoff, and their very quick actions in shutting down the engines prevented a really serious situation from occurring. That's the evidence we have at the moment. So great commendation to the two officers for the very quick reaction. We are now in the process of recruiting a third pilot. It's been approved by government and approved by Deputy Governor for the advertisement. It's advertised at the moment, and we would hope that maybe within 6 or 8 weeks we would have that additional pilot that would allow us fly longer. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, if we get a second helicopter, and the hope is we'll look at an increase there. And we had some very good news recently. One of our local young auxiliary constables, Darren McLean, has started a pilot training programme in Trinidad and Tobago. He's headed off. He leaves us. He's been off on his preliminary training. He heads off for a period of 3 to 4 years this coming Thursday, and he will go through his pilot training. We have every confidence, knowing what we know about him. He's a first-class young man, really interested, and he will complete his course. We don't anticipate any problems, and in 3 to 4 years he will come back as an additional pilot, and will be the first locally trained Cayman pilot for the RCIPS Air Operations Unit. And we see that as really progressive and advancing for him personally and for us as an organisation and for Cayman Islands government and the aspiration of the civil service. I think it's outstanding. So we're aware of the issues and time down with the pilots, and I think we're working 3 pilots is a great resilience for us. It covers leave. We have also been using a system where during the summer periods where we have downtime, we bring in pilots on a short-term contract basis to give us that optimum coverage. That's working extremely well. So all looking good for the helicopter and for the work of the helicopter, and it certainly supplements the national security position and our general operations. I mean, it can be used for traffic and on-island monitoring as well. Eyes in the sky. I mean, the benefits are multiple. It's not just in the sea. They provide us with eyes and ears and particular operations we would have on island. So it multi-purpose functions for the helicopter.
So just to support what the Commissioner is saying, we've brought in 2 pilots to actually train our 2 pilots in the flying the 145. So within the next 2 weeks, our 2 pilots that we have employed locally should be qualified and certified to fly the new aircraft. In addition to that, another pilot is on island to make sure or to ensure that while those 2 pilots are training, we have the use of the aircraft. So things are in place. And even though we had an incident where we lost the aircraft, we want to certainly remain operational as possible.
Right. Well, if we could ask, and I certainly want to continue speaking about it after the break, but the aircraft, the original helicopter that we had that went down with the rotor incident, Is that repairable, or will we have to replace it altogether and get another one?
Okay, so the answer to that lies in the technical examination. The aircraft is still here on island. It must be removed to Airbus Texas, and they will send engineers from Germany and indeed their own engineers from Airbus Texas, and it will have to be stripped completely. The current indications are that there is serious structural damage. We haven't been told definitively that it is beyond economic repair, so we're waiting on that outcome of the full technical and structural examination, which we would hope to be able to report back on. It may take a month, may take a little bit longer. It's getting ready to be shipped to Texas, Airbus, and then we will find out, we're sure, pretty shortly after that what the outcome is, and that will inform the future strategic direction and the business case we make to government as to whether it's going to be repaired or we're going to be seeking a replacement helicopter.
Hopefully insurance kicks in, right?
Well, the insurance is definitely there. It's in place. Our risk management have done a great job in ensuring that. It's really down now to the technical report telling us what the best option is.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you come back, we can give our good folks on the BRAC specifically some excellent news and an invitation. So if you're in the BRAC, you may want to...
And that's really important, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, you heard it from the Commissioner himself, so you want to know more? When we come back from our headline news, please rejoin us.
Radio K-Man. Radio K-Man's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Economics and Statistics Office is launching its annual business survey for measuring the economic performance locally. The survey will begin on April 8th of this year. Survey forms will be hand-delivered, mailed or emailed to all entities that produce goods and services in the Cayman Islands. The surveys seek to gather data for the system of national accounts, which estimates the total value of goods and services produced by the different industries in the Cayman Islands. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Theresa May has responded to criticism from her own MPs over talks with Jeremy Corbyn by saying all MPs have a responsibility to deliver Brexit. The Prime Minister said the public expect us to reach across this House to find a way through this. Mr. Corbyn said he welcomed the Prime Minister's willingness to compromise to resolve the Brexit deadlock. The Prime Minister's move to hold talks has angered some Brexiteers, with 2 ministers resigning over it. And the last known survivor of the transatlantic slave ships brought to the U.S. in 1860 has been identified by an academic at Newcastle University. Sally Smith was kidnapped from West Africa by slave traders and lived until 1937 in Alabama, staying for more than 70 years on the plantation where she had been enslaved. Hannah Durkin made the discovery in first-hand accounts and census records. The previous last known survivor had been a former slave who died in 1935. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Hi, I'm Colin Lumsden, the Georgetown manager and head of the Revitalization Initiative. Our capital city is the heart of business activities in the Cayman Islands, and we would like to bring it back as a center of social activities, with street-side cafes, green spaces, improved roads, and proper walkways for interconnectivity. The new cruise and cargo port is part of the plan, and will allow for operators to meet passengers dockside with less lines and overcrowding. Cargo operations will be less intrusive. There will be pedestrianized areas for people to safely walk, shop, and dine. Modernizing the cruise and cargo port is a key element in the efforts to revitalizing our capital city.
Save time, don't stand in line. You can apply for or renew your trade and business license online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just visit dci.gov.ky and click on the Trade and Business Online application link. Now, you don't need to stand in line, take time out of your busy schedule, or try to find parking. You can apply for your trade and business license online. Visit dci.gov.ky today and save time for running your business.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today, and thanks for joining us. And truly is an opportunity to continue our partnership with our various government agencies to have, I don't want to say our colleagues, but our stalwarts in the civil service join us, in particular from the RCIPS, our Commissioner of Police, together with Superintendent Mr. Dwayne Ebanks, and everybody knows her. She's just everywhere. Remarkable poet in and of herself as a publicist. It's Jacqueline Carter.
We continue to tell her that she's great, but I don't know. I think somehow it's not getting through to her. Or either that or she's very modest.
It's the humility, man. It's the humility.
It's just, I'm being embarrassed now. I really am.
But see, I think she subscribes to Gorbachev's sort of idea. Was it Dobonaya, no Provonaya?
Be careful now. She speaks Russian.
Yeah, I know.
He knows.
She speaks
Russian. I came on here once.
Yeah. It's fascinating. It's one of those languages that I think when you listen to it, even if it's said in a loving, kind way, it always sounds so ominous.
It can sound very, very loving as well.
Well, we shall get to that at some point, but
I'm moving along swiftly.
Yes, that'll be for after the show. Yeah. The outtakes. But I'm fascinated at such a small society, relatively speaking, small geographical area, relatively speaking. Not many people, bumping close to 100,000 perhaps. But still relatively small. I mean, a good crowd of fans at a football stadium, and we're not much more than that. Now, Commissioner, from that perspective, to see the growing opportunities for the policing personnel to move up, whether they want to get skill in munitions, whether they want to take up air services. For a small community, we're providing great opportunity for those who are with aptitude and are willing to make the sacrifice.
Yes, so I mean we are a service in growth, I suppose, and the government have approved us for 75, an increase in 75 resources over 3 years. We're in year 3 at the moment, and there are 24 men and women in training at the moment. They'll finish around the 9th of May, and another small group goes in after that. So we'll potentially reach our full strength this year. And what that allows us to do then is to look at the areas of specialisation that's required. So frontline obviously hits us. That's the one you must manage 24/7, 365. That's your blue light response. You must have people in place to respond to calls for service. But outside of that, the demands are multiple. It's multi-stranded. There's lots of constituent parts: air operations, marine, firearms response, scenes of crime, photography, fingerprinting, photographing, family support, domestic violence. I mean, break it all up, all the different constituent parts, and they all have to be manned. And for all those specialist positions, including CID or Criminal Investigations Division, Financial Crimes Investigation, all of those have to have a level of expertise. Mm-hmm. And you can draw from the front line to a certain extent. You have to buy in some expertise on top of that to help develop local resources. And some of our local people then, newly recruited people, show an aptitude for that type of work, and we allow them then to progress if there's an opportunity to take the opportunity on secondment, so that in time in your career path you come in and you obviously occupy the front line, and then you can take so many disparate strands that would meet your skill set or something you're very interested in. And that also includes promotion to the various ranks. And we're certainly trying to get the best people into the ranks, and job fit is very important. So a lot going on in the HR department at the moment in terms of trying to look at people's skill set, where they sit. We have a lot of new areas we have to look at. Cybersecurity, cybercrime, digital forensic is very much to the fore at the moment. Financial crime is very important to us to develop an expertise to be able to deal with money laundering and terrorist finance investigation. And then as we look at helicopter pilots, the Coast Guard coming on board brings a whole new requirement for a new skill set. And because we're an island nation, there's an anticipation we would have a great interest and a lot of young people, and even not so young people, but experienced people who could transition into the Coast Guard. And as you know, we have our commander and deputy commander in place, and they're working very hard to advance that this year to put the Coast Guard in place. So there will be a transition from Joint Marine Unit to Coast Guard that gives us a whole new focus. going in. So multiple strands, loads of opportunities, really exciting career for someone that embraces it. And it is a career. It's not really a job for a year or two. You come in and most of our very good people are there for 30 years plus. And some of our excellent people are, you can see they've come through the ranks. Yeah. You can see they've come through and they bring that experience. They bring knowledge from the community and they bring a relationship with the community, which is very important. And you mentioned that we're quite a small community, but that's all relative. Mm-hmm. Everything is relative. The size of the service is relative. The relationship with the community is relative. And one of the issues we may talk about in a few minutes is our visit to BRAC and the need for us to visit the BRAC as a senior command team to maintain that connection and that interconnectivity. That's something I'm really interested in. As our full senior command team, we realise that there's a lot going on in the BRAC. It's relative to what's going on, across the islands, but it's something that we need to keep connected to and connected with. So that's one of the functions of our meeting going over.
I can imagine too, given that we have for relatively small place 2 international airports.
Yeah,
and having the abilities for people to come to the Cayman Islands, but want to stay perhaps on the BRAC or on Grand Cayman, in and out of an international airport. The obligations, international superintendent, means a lot for us.
Oh yes, we have to certainly meet the standards of being an international airport, make sure the securities and everything are in place.
Right, and as a commissioner shared too, the fact that the BRAC community needs to feel that they're not forgotten, that they're involved, that their safety and security, that whatever it is that they feel the police should be responding to is there. You can't ignore. Thankfully, we haven't. At least, hopefully, they don't feel that we have. Right.
Well, I think that some of the visit today, and I'm trying to start her off on a positive note, some of the feedback we're getting from the BRAC is that we're not connected. We're not fully connected. And that's certainly one of the reasons pushing our visit here. Jackie had carried out some focus group work during last year, and the results of that were kind of a little bit alarming when she presented them to me then, and it does indicate there's a disconnect. Although we have 1 inspector, 1 sergeant and 9 police officers, which is a pretty good contingent. It's a ratio of 1 in 181, the policing ratio, compared to the population. And for me, as a Commissioner of Police, to hear that we may not have the connectivity we had wished is a little bit alarming. So I really needed to get over. It's time to go over, and I suppose a driver for that was, unfortunately, last week we had a fatal traffic accident over there, and whatever has happened over there, no one has come forward with the information. And if I get the opportunity now, I want to make the appeal for anybody with information to come forward to us. Please do come forward. We have a family that's grieving for the loss of a man, a relatively young man, left on the side of a road, and somebody knows something over there, and we're asking to come forward, share that with us, allow us to investigate it and take it through due process. A week has passed and nobody has come forward, and that's a little bit difficult to understand, and it's something I'll be discussing with the community in Cayman BRAC tomorrow. I'm hearing lots of other complaints then about maybe laws not being enforced completely in Cayman BRAC, and that's concerning. So I'll be speaking to the officers and the command team in Cayman BRAC over the next 2 days and looking at the way we're doing our business and listening and I hope hearing what the community are going to say. So I'm hoping, or I'm appealing for a good turnout in the Ashton Rutty Centre. It's tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. in the medical wing of the Ashton Rutty Centre. And we really encourage people to come out and join us with the Commissioner, and also Superintendent Robbie Graham will be there, Superintendent of Uniform Operations. He'll also be present. I'll be present. And we're really interested in hearing the concerns and the perspective of the community. And refreshments will also be provided, so we hope that people can make it out.
Light refreshments.
Light refreshments, yes, well.
So, that's being invited. That's important that people come. But again, it's an opportunity for people to be as open and as critical as they wish, so we get a proper understanding of what it is that's causing a disconnect, if there is that big disconnect. But I've been reading some of the articles, the online articles and some of the comments, and I know you have to level that out and balance it out, but some of them are really concerning, and that's forcing us to look at the way we do business. So
I appreciate very much what you shared, Commissioner. And I think back to the community meetings here on Grand Cayman, whether you attended the one in the from the West Bay Town Hall, or later on in recent times in this primary school hall, or you go to the other districts. Many of the concerns that residents have whether it's on the BRAC or on Grand Cayman, are very similar. The police presence and respectfulness, or those of us on the BRAC may feel just as those of us in East End or West Bay or Georgetown, that where is the police? But you can only be so many places at one time, and it's for us as a community to get more actively involved and supportive and feel that we can say, hey, we're on board, we need this, there's a response in this. It's a role for us.
And thank you for raising that issue. It's a really important point. So the issue of special constabulary, these are our volunteer police officers from the islands, and we're reviewing it here on Grand Cayman. I don't have many or much of an interest in special constabulary in Cayman Brac, and I'm hoping I could reignite that interest. I'm told some years ago it was quite vibrant, and I'd love to see that back again to support the officers. And you'll have seen an ad go out in the last week or so. We're looking for a community safety officer. This is a new approach where we take a person from the community, employ them to work with RCIPS, not in the capacity as a police officer, but in the capacity as a member of the community looking at quality of life issues. So they're working alongside the police, but not police officers, representing the aims and objectives and raising and carrying the concerns of the community so we can take some affirmative action. And the concept there will be 11 employed on Grand Cayman and 1 on Cayman Brac. And they will have an opportunity then to work with police officers, visit their communities, come around and tell us what it is and make sure we're responding. It was part of programme for government. I had discussed it with the Premier as far back as a year ago. We're ready to progress it now, and we hope that we would have these community safety officers in place in the next month or two, operating in communities. And I think that brings us a step forward in our community policing programme initiative, trying to build partnership, deal with quality of life, deal with the issues that impact on communities. And some people might suggest, well, they're not really issues for police, but it's a bit like the broken window theory. When something happens and the window's not fixed and another one's broken, it leads to a derelict building. So we need to get in at ground level and become part of the problem solving rather than the problem, become part of the solution is where we're trying to be. So it's about working with communities, and some people see it as a soft side of policing. I think it's an integral part of policing, particularly in the Cayman Islands. Right. It may not suit other jurisdictions, but to my mind it's particularly fit for Cayman Islands.
Right. If we could ask perhaps maybe two things. First, just confirm and clarify the special constable and the auxiliary constable. Are they synonymous or are they different?
Auxiliary constable is a full-time paid employee of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, and they work doing jobs that don't require the full coercive powers. So they perform a very important function, but they don't need a full coercive powers, and there is a career pathway for them to move from AC, from auxiliary constable, to PC, police constable. They have to go through additional training, but some people who show an aptitude are ready to move in that direction. We did 2 last year, and I think there's 6 people who have demonstrated an interest from moving from AC to PC. Looking at the special constabulary, they are volunteer members of the community, responsible persons who decide that they would wish to give some of their time. It's normally considered to be a time of 150 hours per annum, and they help us out. And where you'll see them most, where they're very, very visible, they wear the same uniform, and some of them are excellent people, professionals in their own right, doing full-time jobs, but deciding to give up time on weekends or Agricultural Day, Batabanu festivals, sometimes helping us with patrols at the weekend where demands are higher. So they actually do a very good job with no remuneration, and they integrate well with the regular police service, if that's what you wish to call. They do have coercive powers, and it's absent on Cayman Brac at the moment, and I'm hoping I've heard some names of interested parties over there. And while I'm over there over the next 2 days, I'd certainly like the opportunity to meet those persons, those individuals, and encourage them. If they would like to become special constabulary, we'll provide the training, and we would hope then to equip them, uniform them, and they could supplement the uniform service in Cayman Brac, which would ultimately enhance community service. That's what it does.
Well, when we come back from the break, then perhaps we could even maybe explain for the community safety officers what sort of requirements, criteria, what kind of characteristics you're looking for. obviously remind, in particular, our friends and family on the BRAC about the visit tomorrow evening with the helicopter and the like, and get into some other areas. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you know your home is wasting electricity right now? Appliances or electronic devices can use electricity even when they are not in use or switched off. Also known as energy vampires, things like your cable box and microwave are wasting your valuable money. Don't let these devices keep sucking your power. To save money, simply group these devices together on a power strip and turn off the strip when it's not in use. Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure's Facebook page for more tips on keeping your home energy efficient. Be an energy advocate.
Awake your taste at Daily Grind Cafe, Cayman's longest running coffee shop. Enjoy our cozy ambiance at Dr. Roy Drive, Georgetown. Or visit us online to view our delectable menu and for limited time offers at dailygrindcayman.com.
Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for the 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us in the studio, Commissioner of Police, Acting Superintendent of Special Operations, together, with that, I guess, the voice, face, and excellent spokesman in the part of Ms. Jacqueline Carpenter, our guest. Mr. Ebanks, what do you think? Perhaps Ms. Carpenter is only lacking the good domino skills, but she's not too bad. I understand the cards.
How do you know? You haven't played
I'm
domino.
not sure. We've never socialized to that.
I hear, got to be careful.
Relationship.
When you play with her.
Social skills.
We'll see. We got a commissioner to, adjudicate to see whether or not she's good at dominoes, but that's another time.
I need to be taught. There we go. And then I'll be really good.
I think I have to learn as well, actually. Yeah.
We all do, man. It's a great game for sharpening the math skills. And I only say that because I think many times we forget that the police officers, they are our friends or brothers. Some of us they're family to us. So they're human, and they work countless hours. And how are we as a community responsive to them? Do we get frustrated when the police officers, in our words, hopefully not too disparaging, hiding on the corner with the gun? But is it because we're speeding fast on our road and we're not stopping to check ourselves? No. Little things that quid pro quo, I think, Commissioner.
Well, look, policing is a mixed bag. If police officers are standing on the road with a speed detector, gun or speed detection radar equipment, it's to ultimately prevent the loss of life and reduce dangerous driving on our roads. And the complaints we receive on a daily basis are phenomenal. Some really erratic driving on the road. So there's a purpose to that. It's not aimless policing. It's because we're receiving complaints that the reckless speeding on the road is putting other people in danger, and the ultimate consequence for families and for drivers is a very bad, serious, incapacitating accident or a fatal accident. So there's a purpose in these things and what we're doing, and we hope that we're delivering a purposeful police service as opposed to an aimless police service. That's the objective, and we have mindsets to change inside in the service itself. And then at the command team, we look at it on a daily basis. We receive complaints. Jackie would receive them. We receive them on our website. That has been a great source of information coming into us. And we kind of look and see how can we do things better. And that's a constant. Every day you have to look at it. You can never sit back and say, I've actualised. The service has self-actualised. It hasn't. So we're continuing to learn, continuing to improve on a daily basis, dealing with different issues. But it's not a case of we send someone out to hide behind a tree with a speed gun. There's a method, there's a function to it.
There's a reason behind it.
And there's a reason behind it. And the reasons are actually quite serious.
Yeah. And I'll say on Esterly Tibbetts in the morning when I come in, I know where the constable hides. It's right as you come around the corner, and I notice that everyone
slows down.
And I notice that everybody drives slower now on Esterly Tibbetts in the morning as you come into town. So it's having an impact.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful that as a public we start to realize that we have a role to play.
Yeah,
now,
correct.
Personally, I like when I see the police car on the road, as opposed to when it's hiding, because it can respond. But when we have errant drivers on the road doing, overtaking the roundabouts, for argument's sake, you're putting you and whoever's in your car at risk and the rest of us. Now, there is this connection, I think, as a community we have. I think of the community safety officers, the auxiliary constable, as well as the special constable, that we who have an interest can play a role, just like we get involved with a PTA or the service club or the youth group. If we can play a role, not to make it a police state, but to make it more of a community effort to make communities safer, improve the quality of life, and we become responsible citizens. Mr. Ebanks, not long ago, before there were marine laws, some of us went out in the North Sound specifically, and we got, forgive my parlance, a dinner of conchs. We got that amount that fed the family for that day. We didn't get 50,000. We didn't need a marine law to say that we should be conservative. Somewhere down the line, we've become less respectful and
Right.
good stewards. It's no different when it comes to that or policing and the like. But anyway, maybe I'm a philosopher today and tomorrow a poet. If I have a job, we'll see.
But I do think that that's probably equally important to point out that I go to a lot of community meetings, as a lot of our senior command do. There are fabulous people on the island who are genuinely interested in policing, and they raise very valid issues. And they don't raise them to be overcritical. They raise them to seek improvement.
Right.
And if we address it on that, if we approach it on that basis, well, then we're going to have a better police service. If we approach it on a defensive basis, well, we're going to learn nothing. So, I mean, I go to meetings and people tell us quite important things, and then we can modify our behaviours and we can put resources where we need to put them. So, I have to say, I've been very impressed with the large majority of people I've met. They are genuinely interested in their communities and they have something to offer. And this leads us then to why we would have community safety officers coming from the community, because they have an interest in their communities.
And you get a chance to be part of law enforcement, and I think whether your skill set is that you're, Commissioner, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking you're a banker or an accountant, you're some part of the financial sector, you may be able to get involved and be attached to that requisite to an entity, providing your skill set to help him with making the jurisdiction from a reputational perspective much more enhanced, helping with enforcement of and prosecution of necessary legislation. It is us. At the end of the day, it's going to affect us.
Rightly so, and I mean, as I said, because we're so many constituent parts, it's multi-stranded, make up the service. You need a lot of expertise, and not everybody has to be a police officer inside in the police service. Police service is made up of a large number of people, and our support staff really do an excellent function in the policing service. I'm talking HR, finance, communications officers, scenes of crime officers. All those people form part of a police service, and it's not just sworn police officers that make a police service. And then as we find ourselves moving in new directions and crime becomes more complex, technical, sophisticated, you have to buy in expertise or get new expertise. They won't all be police officers.
I think too, Superintendent, from that perspective of the student, I make no apology for it, but I ask you to forgive me if it's an issue. Anytime that I can raise the idea of education to encourage our parents to encourage their children, or teachers to encourage the students, that skill set, that interest you have, you don't have to be a lawyer and working in a law firm or in a financial sector. You could be in the police. You could be in other areas. So that student today who's thinking, I know what, I love flying in aviation. Maybe I'll be a helicopter pilot. I can come work with the police. Or I may love boats and be excellent at boats. I can be a police officer and working in the Coast Guard, the maritime area. From that perspective, though, Mr. Ebanks, when we look at our students and as they encourage, the more we expand the policing element, the more our community has a buy-in and ownership, a stake, and a vested interest.
Yes. One thing I've learned from being a parent is to really support our children in what the career they want to choose of their children. My son wanted to do. He wanted to be. He wanted to study for a marine biologist, and I tried to sway him away from that. And that was the biggest challenge that I've ever had, because he couldn't get him to do his homework on time. That interest just wasn't there. And then we sat with him and I said, "Listen, okay, go ahead and do, And his grades just went through the roof. So I say that to say that I encourage parents that yes, police officer, it's not really that much of a bad job. It's pretty rewarding.
You've been there a couple of years, huh?
I've been here 32 years. And if I had it to do all over again, I would certainly do the same thing. So yes, we would certainly like to see more Caymanians in the service, serving their communities. We've had one of the good things, many good things that I can say about this commissioner. He is very, very much in tune with localizing the service. We have had a number of recruit classes or recruit courses for Caymanians. We have one that is ongoing now. We have another one that is starting in May. We're trying to get as many Caymanians in the service as possible. We also have a fair that is taking place on
the public safety recruitment fair, which will be a number of different departments, including customs and fire and so on and so forth. That's taking place on May 16th, and that's going to be at UCCI all day. And so we're going to be also very much a part of that. And there's going to be demonstrations that are going to be done. There'll be a morning session and an after-work session for people who want to come and hear more about it at those times of day that's more convenient for them. So I really encourage anybody who's thinking about it to come out on May 16th to UCCI. And a number of departments will be there, including us.
Yes. We'll be there with a lot of our bells and whistles.
A lot of our bells and whistles, yeah.
Canine will be there. Scenes of crime will be there. Marine unit will be there. We'll also have certain aspects of the air operations will be there as well. We have a drone capability as well, which probably you may not know about, but we have.
The eyes in the sky.
Yes, so we have a number of options. If we can't get in the sky with the helicopter, we can actually deploy our drone. So, just want to mention that just for some. School leavers that may want to be interested in the
that's the beautiful part, man. The opportunities in this country. I love this.
Yeah, and just in the police department, there's so many different ways that you can be a police officer, or as the commissioner said, be a civilian member of staff. There's so many different things for all the different skill sets and different talents. I believe that there is a role in the police for anyone, really.
We have the invitation, not only to promote the police and the positive, but as the commissioner shared, if there's don't is a complaint, but there's a concern that the public has, we can have a town hall meeting right here.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be remiss to say tomorrow evening, again, Commissioner and Ms. Jackie, to remind, especially those on the back, 7 o'clock, Ashton Ruddy
7 o'clock, Ashton Ruddy Center, medical wing, the medical wing. And please come. And there'll be the Commissioner of Police and the Superintendent of Uniform Operations. I'll be there as well. And we look forward to hearing from the community, and we look forward to seeing you there and meeting you.
Would it be improper for me to say to the public, have a candid, open, frank, respectful discussion with the police with respect to crime or alleged crime or concerns, so that as a community we know what's happening, so the police can be able to respond appropriately?
I would invite and appreciate a full and open discussion from anyone that has anything to say, because we want to leave nothing on the table. I want to be able to come back and formulate the plans. Even so, we've had the serious discussion: have we the right people over there doing the job? We believe certainly some of our officers are the right people, and we've concerns around others. But that's the discussion we're going to have tomorrow night, and I'm asking the community to tell me exactly what's going on the island. And I'll be meeting the district commissioner, I'll be meeting the deputy commissioner, the deputy assistant district commissioner, and several other business people and the school principals over the next few days. We've a pretty packed agenda to meet people, so we can get the best information and then really have a look at it and see what's good and what's not so good, and fix the what's not so good. That's the intention, that Cayman would feel that they're getting a fair share of the policing. The strength is certainly right in terms of numbers of officers. They got 2 brand new cars there a very short while ago. Unfortunately, one of them was crashed very shortly after that. However, we'll get that repaired, and then we just need to have the people out doing what they're supposed to be doing, responding. There are some issues about our officers not being contactable outside of office hours. It's an issue where people ring up, it goes through 911, and people are using local landmarks to describe a location for police assistance, and it may not be known to the 911 because there's no street, there's no geo mapping on it to assist with dispatch. So we're trying to close that down and look at a mobile phone number that people are contactable on, so the local landmarks would be known. There's things we're picking up that we could close down with a small bit of thought, and that's part of the agenda for tomorrow.
All right, well, so that's 7 o'clock, and if you don't attend, how can you make an input And if you're there and you don't say anything, how can you make an impact?
Yeah.
So the invitation is there. I always say it's like birthday cake. If you don't blow out the candles and cut the cake, how can you taste it? That's just what I think. Superintendent, if there's anything else you would like to...
I just wanted to say that the senior command team meets on a regular basis several times a week. We look at what has happened over the last 24 hours, what we've done right, what we've done wrong, and how can we better serve the communities. And that is our primary focus. What can we do better to please the people that we serve?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for.
I just want to remind everybody that there's also other ways to get in touch with us through our website. We have a feedback page. If you go to the How Do I menu on our website, you can click on a link there that will take you to feedback. You can always send us messages through that. We also have a submit a tip function on the website that we hope people will use. The Commissioner was mentioning the fatality on the BRAC recently, where we're still looking for information from the community. That can always be submitted anonymously to us on the website. So there's always those options as well. I just want to remind everyone that those channels of communication also exist.
Thanks so much.
Jack is the spearheader of the mobile app.
Yes, and the mobile app. There's a RCIPS mobile app as well. I'm going to be trying to promote that when we're over in the BRAC. I don't know how many BRACers are aware of it or have it on their phones, but we'll be promoting that as well.
Mr. Commissioner, anything else, sir?
No, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm glad I got the opportunity to come in and see you, and this opportunity just to say what had to be said. And another day we may have call-in session that you may wish to have, and I certainly make myself available to return. Thanks for the opportunity.
But thank you very much, and we recognize that your jobs are better served if you're out there in the communities. But if we can help facilitate information or any which way, more than happy to do so. I believe the community is stronger when we work together.
Absolutely.
So, listeners,
thank you.
Tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock on the BRAC. Please come with the National Center and be a part of the community meeting, part of the ICRPS. Tomorrow is Thursday. I think our endeavour is that the members of the opposition, in particular the opposition leader, is our guest. Looking forward to that discussion. Remember, Radio Cayman always takes it to the proceedings of the Legislative Assembly live. We rebroadcast it later, but our sister station Breeze has it on as it unfolds. So you can listen to Susan play the music, but you can also hear the parliamentarians making their contributions. You got 2 ears, just listen and talk less. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.